Every parent eventually asks the same question. What is my child actually doing on their phone when I'm not looking? Some families answer that question with conversation. Others answer it with rules. And some turn to technology. KidsGuard Pro promises to provide an answer by giving parents extraordinary visibility into an Android device. But before trusting that promise, I wanted to understand two things. Does it actually work? And what does it require in return? This app claims it can show parents almost everything happening on an Android phone: location, photos, typed searches, the phone's current screen, a live view of the device, and even the sound around it. So instead of repeating the company's marketing, I bought a dedicated Samsung phone, installed KidsGuard Pro, and tested its major features myself. Some worked in seconds, others took much longer. And one discovery showed me that the dashboard does not always tell the whole story. This is build the case. This wasn't a speed test. It wasn't a benchmark. And it wasn't a sponsored walkthrough. Every feature was evaluated the same way. Did it work? How long did it take? Did the result match the claim? And what limitations did I observe? The first important finding came before I tested a single monitoring feature. Installing KidsGuard Pro is not like downloading an ordinary app from Google Play. The setup required me to download an installation assistant from KidsGuard's website. Android warned me that the file came from outside of the Play Store. I then had to allow installation from unknown sources. Google Play Protect displayed another warning and identified the installation assistant as software built for an older version of Android. To continue, I had to disable Play Protect. The setup also required accessibility access and several other sensitive permissions. Those permissions are what allow the software to observe and collect information from the device. Once everything was approved, I entered the binding code and connected the phone to the dashboard under the name that I created. The installation succeeded then. But success and simplicity are not the same thing. A technically experienced user needs this process. A less experienced parent may feel uncertain about overriding protections Android normally recommends keeping enabled. None of these warnings by themselves prove that the software is malicious, but they are part of the real user experience, and they should not be minimized. My first real-world test was GPS tracking. I left my home and drove to the gym with the tested phone connected to the mobile hotspot. When I arrived, the dashboard still showed my home address. I manually refreshed the page. The location did not change. So I checked the phone. Android location services were on. The background service had permission to access location all the time. The phone was online, and the service had recently requested the device's location. After additional time, the map finally updated to the gym. The location itself was accurate. Later that night, I returned home. The dashboard continued showing the gym. I tapped the red synchronization indicator and reviewed the product's troubleshooting guidance. The interface listed possible causes such as unstable internet, disabled permissions, or an inactive background service. I then used the manual update option. The location did not immediately change, but minutes later, the dashboard had corrected itself and displayed my home location. So the evidence supports the GPS claim, but during my tests, this did not behave like constant second-by-second live tracking. A better description is the location was accurate once synchronized, but synchronization could be delayed. I expected the biggest story to be whether the remote tools worked. Honestly, most of them did. The bigger surprise was something much smaller: the dashboard. During testing, one page suggested there wasn't enough data. Another page showed the information had already been collected. That's exactly why evidence matters. If I had stopped at the dashboard, I would have reached the wrong conclusion. The remote camera feature began with an important disclosure. KidsGuard warned that activating the front camera could cause noticeable changes on some devices and potentially reveal that the monitoring was taking place. My first attempt produced an error stating that another remote control function was currently in use. After retrying, the feature worked. The front camera captured an image of me. The rear camera captured the interior of my vehicle. Once it began working, each capture appeared in roughly 5 seconds. Next, I tested the screenshot feature. I wanted to know whether it only captured the KidsGuard interface or whatever was actually displayed on the target phone. From my laptop, I triggered a screenshot while the Samsung home screen was visible. The dashboard returned the correct image within seconds. I repeated the test with Samsung settings open. Again, the dashboard captured the active screen accurately. That confirmed that the feature could remotely capture the phone's current foreground display. Live screen connected almost immediately. The laptop displayed the Samsung clock application in near real time. The image was clear enough to identify the app, the timer, and the phone's interface. But the session had an important limitation. When the Samsung display timed out and locked, the live view stopped. The dashboard displayed a message explaining that the target phone screen was locked and asked me again to try later. So, live screen worked while the device was awake and unlocked. It did not continue once the screen locked during my test. The remote screen recording feature also worked. I selected a 15-second recording, started it from the dashboard, and interacted with the phone. The dashboard showed a countdown, processed the file, and made it available for playback shortly afterward. The recording accurately showed the Samsung setting screen. I then tested ambient audio recording. I selected a 2-minute recording and spoke at a normal volume near the phone. The dashboard displayed the remaining time. When the recording finished, it appeared with playback and download controls. My speech was understandable. The interface also included an optional AI noise reduction feature, although I did not conduct a separate comparison test. I took a regular photo of my gym bag using the Samsung camera app. At first, I looked for it inside the remote camera gallery. It wasn't there. That turned out to be the wrong selection. The remote camera gallery stores images triggered through KidsGuard. The phone's ordinary camera images appear under Photos. The gym bag image later synchronized into the DCIM folder with the correct timestamp. So, native photo collection worked, but like GPS, it was not immediate. I also tested type activity through normal phone use. I searched for Chrome by typing CHRO. I searched for Google Play by typing PLAY. And I searched for the Clock app by typing CLOC. Those partial search terms appeared in the Keylogger page almost instantly with timestamps and application context. The feature did not infer complete words. It recorded the partial text exactly as entered. One of the most useful findings came from comparing the main dashboard with the dedicated screen time page. On the dashboard, the total screen time displayed 0 seconds. The summary card said the system needed more data. The day view of the screen time page also showed no meaningful results. Based only on those screens, I could have concluded that the screen time collection was not working. But when I switched to the week view, the data appeared. The page showed a usage chart and approximately 28 minutes of KidsGuard Pro activity. So the information had been collected. It simply was not displayed consistently across every view. I would not automatically call this a software defect. The dashboard summary and the detailed page may use different aggregation windows or update schedules. But for the user, the practical result is the same. One view said there was no meaningful data. Another view showed the data existed. That consistently could cause a parent to reach the wrong conclusion unless they click deeper into the platform. There are also important limits to this investigation. The Samsung phone had no SIM card. I did not configure personal social media accounts. So I did not test cellular calls, SMS messages, call recording, WhatsApp, Messenger, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, Line, or Telegram. I also identified but did not fully test automatic photo scheduling and AI noise reduction. Those features should not be described as working or failing based on this evaluation. They are simply outside the completed test scope. That matters because a credible review has to distinguish between three things: what worked, what did not work, and what was never tested. So, does KidsGuard Pro work? On the dedicated Samsung Galaxy A14 5G I tested, the major Android features did work. The remote tools were the strongest part of the product. Screenshots, camera captures, live screen recordings, ambient audio, and keylogging all responded quickly once the device and services were connected. GPS and native photo synchronization also worked, but they required more patience. The biggest weaknesses were not the number of available features. They were installation complexity, unclear synchronization timing, and differences between the main dashboard and the detailed analytics pages. But capability is only half the case. KidsGuard Pro can access location, stored photos, the active screen, recordings, ambient sound, type searches, and usage information. That is an extraordinary amount of access. To enable it, the user must install software outside of Google Play, override security protections, and grant extensive permissions. For some parents or guardians who are legally authorized to manage a device, understand the technology, and believe this level of monitoring is necessary, KidsGuard Pro may provide the visibility they're looking for. For households seeking a simple, transparent, plug-and-play parental control system, this may feel excessive. And for anyone who does not fully understand the legal, ethical, and trust implications, this is not a tool to install casually. There are also features I intentionally did not test, not because they don't matter, but because my testing environment couldn't evaluate them fairly. This phone didn't have an active SIM. I did not configure personal social media accounts. Rather than guessing, I'd rather tell you something wasn't tested than pretend that I know how it performs. So, what is the case? KidsGuard Pro largely delivered the capabilities I was able to test. GPS, screenshots, remote cameras, live viewing, screen recording, ambient audio, native photo synchronization, keylogging, screen time reporting. All of these things work during the investigation. Some features require patience, others extensive permissions, and some presented information differently depending on where I looked in the dashboard. But here's what I think matters most. This isn't just another parental control app. It's a platform capable of collecting an extraordinary amount of information from an Android device. Whether that's appropriate depends less on the technology and more on how responsibly it's used. My job wasn't to tell you whether to install it. My job was to investigate the claims, collect the evidence, and present the findings. That's the case. You decide the verdict.